everyone. Welcome to the Cynthia Linox Show. I am your host, Cynthia Linox, your unapologetic deconstruction coach, here to remind you that this is your season. This is your season of self discovery. And with that comes your journey of deconstructing from everything that no longer serves you. Everything. I mean, everything, whether it's political, social, religious, educational, all the things that no longer serve you. This is the time to deconstruct. Why? Because you don't want to, you're not going through a change. You want to have a transformation. A change depends on, you can change your clothes, you can change your style, your hair color, you can changes happen from things that result from external influences. But a transformation has to do with your mindset. And once you submit yourself to a growth mindset, which means you keep an open mind and you remain curious. You want to update the things that you know, because a lot of the things that we are guided by our lives experiences at the time are um, are influenced by traditional beliefs, and the way that is set up, the system is not set up to empower you, and that's the whole idea of transforming, going back to your original self, going back to your earth suit, going back to that place where you were your authentic self. And, the system came in and did a number on us, programmed us, conditioned us. And most of us have remained in that place of uh, conditioning, living our lives based on the things that we were conditioned to think, the way we were conditioned to do things, the belief we were conditioned to follow, and so forth. So we don't advance at all. And when you think about the system, when I say that the system is not set up to empower you, no, the contrary, it is set up to keep you broken. The system is set up to keep you desperate, to keep you in need, to keep you dependent. And unless you realize that for yourself, because it's something that you have to know, otherwise, you will continue the rest of your life living based on the programming that's already uh, within you, based on your belief systems and the conditioning, the way you are used to doing things, the way you live your life. And the reason you're asking questions now is because you are coming to a place where you realize that your life is not working. At least it's not working the way you want it to be. You are not living life on your own terms. We all want that measure of sovereignty, of autonomy, where we can call the shots for our lives. And all of it, transformation begins in your mind. It's a growth it's having a growth mindset, and all of it is by choice. It doesn't happen by osmosis or just by reading a book or talking to someone. No, it happens by choice. It is a conscious choice of self-awareness. And that's the place you want to come to, a place of self-awareness where you are aware of the things that influences your behavior, because with life the way it is today, the way things are unfolding today, you really need to know so that you can come to that place of peace. You can come to that place of contentment, not relying on outside sources, but relying on your ability to create the life that you want. A lot of the thoughts that we entertain are based on traditional values, traditional beliefs. And when you think of it, these beliefs they're not updated. Most of us believe or have believed, of course, I've been going through my journey for a long time. So, and I am so thirsty to learn that, every time I learn something new, I just discard the old and just feng shui everything. I make room for the new because I keep an open mind and I remain curious. I want to know everything. I want to, every day there are new scientific discoveries about the human mind, about the human body, about everything. Things that we used to uh, the way we lived years ago no longer applies to today's environment because we are subject to changes, the changes around us, our environment and social structures and all of that. So you want to remain updated, my friend. You want to update your knowledge. You want to update. And there are so many people that we're in the 21st century, but there's so many people that are still in the 20th century, and you see that on social media. Sometimes people post things, they display their ignorance or lack of education on social media by the things they post. As a matter of fact, I read something. Well, not I didn't read this person on a podcast was talking the other day, and he said any woman, if you have a husband, if you have a man, if you have a partner in your life, uh you shall never take out the trash. You should never pump gas in your car. You should never have to fix any electrical thing in the house. If something goes off, you're not the one to do that. The man is the one that should call and find out and get all the resources to get it fixed. And he went through a whole laundry list of things that a woman should never have to do if you have a man in the house. And I read it and I thought, wow, this sounds really good. It really does sound good from a woman's perspective. And certain things, may be true to some household. But then when I read that, I thought, wow, that sounds good. But in the 21st century, things are different. Now, if you go into a marriage, if you go into a relationship with gender assignment roles, then you are setting yourself up for failure. Why is that? Because it is a conditioned mind. It is a mind that is programmed that says the husband takes out the trash. Well, I mean, if the husband is not home and I am in the house and tomorrow's trash day, what do I do? Wait for the husband? And I know that I'm going off on to the extreme, but even if the husband is home and I happen to be, close to the trash that's already bagged or whatever, or bag it up and take it outside, it's like, what's wrong with that? So I I I can help but make a comment. Usually I just scroll, but if I make a comment, it's gonna be in good faith, good attitude and so forth. And I said that may be 20th century thought process, but in the 21st century, there are no there are successful relationships, and I guess I'm talking about my own relationship. Uh, does not have gender assignment roles. I said we maximize on each other's strength, and this way we get the gusto, we get the best performance out of each other. So if one person is strong in this area, then that's what you do. If the other person is strong in the other area, then that is what they do. And then because if you're doing something that you like to do, see, like me, I like to wash dishes. I like to wash dishes and clean up my kitchen and so forth. And I would sometimes tell my husband, no, honey, I'll do it. But he likes, when at the moment we're done with something or anytime he uses something, he likes a clean kitchen. So, we're really compatible in that area, but I like to wash dishes. I don't necessarily like to cook. He likes to cook and he can get down like a chef. So we have moments where we change not even roles, but we just change the activity, who does what, and that works for us. So that's just a basic example that I'm sharing. You don't have to, if you go into any situation with a mindset that is fixed, that is really a sign of trauma. Why? Your inability to learn, to grow, to develop, to progress. that is really a sign of traditional trauma. And we are not designed that way. Our brain is wired for new, to discover, to keep an open mind, to be curious about things, to ask questions, and to grow. And the moment you say, well, no, I don't want to go beyond what I know, then you are really locking yourself up in a box, and you're not growing, you're not progressing, you're not advancing, you're not developing. You have remained stuck where you are. So it's important that you know, because, when people say, I was talking to someone the other day. Well, I really wasn't talking to them. They were just sharing some things. And they said something to the fact that they wanted to make sure that I knew that they know who they are. I know who I am. Like, I don't need to discover anything. And that's fine. I never argue with anyone when you talk about yourself, because you know you better than anyone, or at least you should. Or in most cases, most people think they do. So they said that a lot of things that I know, work for my mom, my grandma, and she was talking about the traditional values, the traditional mindset that were, that she adheres to, because her thing is that it works for them, it works for me, and brings me peace, and so forth. And how she's happy where she at, and whatever. So we continue to talk, and then it, like, invariably, because people know that I have a somewhat of a different mindset when it comes to religion and so forth. People like to pick my brain. They want to know how I think and what I think and so forth. And what I believe in is really what they want to know. And I would say, I'm a realist. We need to see it. I'm a realist. You know, so they were saying how independent they are and so forth. And I said, well, you're religious. You believe in a savior. And then they went on to talk about, yes, and Jesus is my savior and things of that nature. So I said, somebody who believes or thinks they need a savior is somebody that really does not know themselves. You don't know. If you think you need a savior, then you don't really know yourself. You don't know yourself. You may not even know the scriptures. You need to really delve into it, and start really. When I say ask questions, I don't mean to ask someone else questions. Start questioning your belief system. Question the things that you believe. And I know that you function under a belief of, do not lean onto your own understanding. Question that. Then whose understanding should I lean on? Whose understanding? Once you come to realize that everything in our human experience, everything was created by man, everything was invented by man, everything was put together by man, everything was constructed by man. Every social structure, every cultural norm, every tradition, every conventional construct, everything was put together by man. And once you come to understand that, once you come to know that, but see, not everyone believes that, or not everyone really have an understanding that really everything, a system, modality, everything was construct put together by man. And there are reasons for that. Submit, obedience. It was to create order and control. Once you understand that, you will come to realize that everything that you do, everything that you say, everything that you follow is based on someone else's idea, someone else's uh, thought process. So you're giving honor to that person more so than yourself, and you sort of block truth from coming into you, your own truth, your awareness, because all of it has to do with being aware. It's not believing what I say. I'm just making you aware of your empowerment, your own ability to empower yourself, to know, to grow, to understand, to come to a place where you have knowledge. Because once you have knowledge, you no longer need to believe. Belief system, again, that is created by man. This whole system of belief is created by men. And you know what? You are believing what someone else believed and put together and put it out there. You're believing what your grandmother believed, and your grandmother passed it down to your mother, your parents, and they passed it down to you, and you're passing it down to your children. Now, is it true? Somebody was talking the other day, and they said something about God gives his toughest battles to his strongest soldiers. Think about that. God gives his toughest battles to his strongest soldiers. Now, is that a coping mechanism, or is there any truth to that? What does that mean? Does it makes you, and when you're going through a what you would call a trial, a test, and period of being broken, brokenness experience, is that comforting to you to think? Because others, that's how they would comfort you, and I've seen it. You see it on social media. They'll say, but God gives his toughest battles to his strongest soldiers. So what does that do to your mind, to your psychic? It becomes a coping mechanism. You start feeling uh important. You start feeling a little hopeful, because you're thinking, I am one of God's strongest soldiers. What does that mean, my friend? What does that mean? What does it mean to you? What does it, when you unpack it, what does that mean? Is there any truth to that? What do you need to have? First of all, what do you need to have what's the battle? You see, a growth mindset does not think in terms of a battle. Those are religious terms, religious concepts. But when you have a growth set, if you have a situation, you find the solution. You become practical. You apply your critical thinking skills, and you allow your emotions to be regulated so that you can come to a place where you can think, a place of serene mindset where you can think and process things and not get all bent out of shape, or um, you know fly off the handle. You regulate your emotions depending on what the situation is, because remember, every cell in your body listens. They follow instructions, and they know when you are altered. They know when you are afraid. They know when you are worried. Even your health, your brain, your thoughts communicate a message to your cells, and it knows when you are afraid, when you are altered, and when you're worried, when you are just discombobulated. It sends a message. And that's why sometimes uh the result is sickness and disease. We fall ill. Why? Because we have not regulated our emotions to be serene, to be calm, to apply critical thinking skills, and come to solve the problems that we have. So, being God's strongest soldier, what exactly does that mean to you? Does it brings you comfort? Is there any truth to that? What is that? What is that, and where is that in your reference book? So those are the things you have to question, and when you question these things, and you yourself will come up with the answers. There's another one, that says, God will never give you more than you can handle. What's that? Here you are going through this situation and you need answers, and somebody's going to say, God will never give you more than you can handle. And in the meantime, you are drowning. You're drowning in despair. You're drowning in despair. And then somebody else comes along and they said, there's always a storm before the calm. And all of those become coping mechanism. You're taught not to even trust your own thoughts, not to even trust your solutions, not to even trust your pattern of thinking, not to trust your intuition, your instinct, not to trust your gut, not to trust in your ability to resolve your own issues. Why is that, my friend? Why would you not trust you? What is it about you? What do you have against you? I'm telling you, you may believe in God, but you are an atheist onto yourself. You are an atheist onto yourself. I got that from K.A. Anderson. He posted that yesterday, and I thought it was epic. You are an atheist. That means you don't believe in yourself at all. And for me, it's not a matter of belief, it's knowing, it's to know who you are, your ability, your ability to think and to trust and to analyze and reason, your ability to process thoughts, things. With everything that's going on in our world today, you need to bring yourself to a place where you are not subject to the daily shock and awe. Every day you can expect some kind of thing that can alter your emotions. And when I say, because I would always say, I'm totally unbothered. When I say unbothered, it's not that, because we nobody can be unbothered. I mean, uh biologically, that's not an emotion that exists. We are affected by everything. It's how we regulate it. So, I say I'm totally unbothered. That's because I teach myself every day. I'm in constant training to regulate my emotions. To regulate my emotions. When I hear something, I have to bring myself to a place to determine how it affects me, or how am I going to allow it to affect me, or does it really affect me? How am I going to plan? How will I prepare? What are the things that I need to do? We have this conversation all the time, my husband and I, because again, you can hear so many things, and that's just life. And our position is always, we will do what we can do. And whatever it is that you can do, that's what you need to do. How it affects you, the people that are important to you, your family, your friends, your neighbors, your community, your city, whatever it is that you can do to make things better for everyone, for yourself and everyone, then if it's within your power, that's what you do. If it's within your ability to resolve. Yesterday was voting around here, and I like to exercise that right. So in the midst of my busy day and so forth, I went and I voted. Do I believe that's my voice? Well, I voted. I No political debate here, but I did. Was it important to me? Yes, it was. So if that's my way of contributing, or in whatever way, then that's what I do. I make sure that I am responsible enough to take on that that assignment, that responsibility, that privilege, the ability to vote. But you have to trust yourself. When we say empower, the system is not designed to empower you. It is not designed. The system is designed to keep you abased, depressed, lowly, dependent, controlled, limited, doubtful, scared, unsure. The system is designed to keep you that way. And you have to figure out your own potential, your own skills, your own strength, your own power to know that you can go above and beyond and you can create the life for yourself. You can step into that place of sovereignty. You can step into that place of autonomy within your spirit. You can step into that place, and it all starts in your mind, your thoughts. I don't go by belief, because belief to me is, if you look up belief is when you're not sure. And like I said, I'm a realist and I like um, to deal with reality. The system takes you into a false reality. It takes you into a false reality and it keeps you dependent. And for those of you, I know that you are really struggling with this whole thing to get out of this thought process, but our minds are so programmed, and if it has to do with traditional concepts, traditional programming, that is really hard and it can be harmful. In most cases, the traditions that we follow, they're harmful. They are simply harmful. Because back then, when tradition was set up, they didn't know as much as we know now. We are still discovering things. We're making scientific discoveries every day. We're changing things socially. We're changing things financially, economically, industrially. Things are changing. You look around you. So you have to keep up. You cannot apply 28th century mindset to a 21st century lifestyle. Just doesn't go together. They cannot coexist. So you have to make a decision. Keep a growth mindset. Keep a growth mindset and keep questioning everything. And when I say question, don't go asking someone unless that person you trust and you can have conversations and so forth. But do your own research. Get in there and start questioning. You'll see once you come to learn the truth, that is what's going to set you free, my friend. Once you come to learn the truth, once you come to discover the truth about life, about constructs and belief systems and people's uh, experiences and what they share and their opinions and all that, you'll be able to just get rid of all of that and you will have your own. But you have to trust that. A lot of times, we it's hard to advance. Why? Because we don't trust ourselves. Now, why would you do that? Why would you dishonor yourself by not trusting yourself? Why would you do that? Why would you dishonor you? Because not trusting yourself is dishonoring yourself. Because if you don't trust yourself, that means you're trusting someone else. That means you're trusting someone else's pattern of belief. You are trusting someone else's ideas, their thought process, their take on situations. And for those of you that are hampered by your religious upbringing, again, I don't know why I'm getting all these feeds on my social media, but I get these feeds of these little clips. They're called reels, these reels of churches. I guess they're church services and so forth. And what it is that and it's mainly black churches, and people, they do this dance. It's like they go into a place where, uh, mental, emotional, whatever, and they dance and they jump and they dance and so forth. And then the other day, one came by, because I usually just scroll, because it's not something that, anyway, that I engage with, not even watching. But I saw this young kid. The kid was probably 7 years old. There were some kids, and they were going through the same thing. They were going through the same dance, and they were doing all this stuff and dancing, and then the adults were around them, and kind of like standing as safeguard in case they fall, and they can hold them and so forth. But and then I thought, wow, that's how it happens. That's how we are indoctrinated. That's how we are. These kids, they don't know anything. They're only mimicking what they have seen. They see that, and it's interesting that people do that, and they go home, and the next day they have the same set of problems. They can't pay their mortgage, their rent. They can't pay the light. They're short, or they don't have a job, and it's the same. So you need to ask yourself these questions: why? And it's as I said, it's to see these kids doing that. They have no idea. They're 7 years old. But what we're doing, what are we doing? We are not only indoctrinating the kid, but we are conditioning, we are programming a set of belief system in a kid that age. So they will grow with that. And once that's enmeshed in your fiber, in your psychic, in your mindset, that's hard to remove. And I know you have shared it's hard. Yes, I know it's hard to remove. But once you come to a place and you remove the fear and the worry of what if, because the what if comes from, what if all this is true, and I go to hell and so forth. But once you come to a place where you are doing your own seeking and searching and investigation and all of that, and I don't mean just Google. You can Google anything today and get a lot of good information, but it'll send you to books, it'll send you to different places of reference so that you can learn the truth. And once you learn the truth, my friend, things will change. But just know the system is not set up to empower you. That alone should make you shiver and break out of the matrix, of the system, of the conditioning, of the programming, because it keeps you dependent. And it tells you it's an honorable thing to be dependent. It's an honorable thing to be dependent and trusting in someone else. And it's always externally. It's not like, okay, I'm going to trust my instinct. I'm going to trust my gut. Uh, I'm going to trust the things that I know work for me. We talk about that a lot here, my husband and I. Whatever works for you, because whatever works for you may not be the same thing that works for me. And it's not a matter of good or bad, right or wrong. It's just whatever works for you. The system is not in your favor. And it's not a matter of, it's not bad. It's just that you go through life under submission, because it teaches you to submit. It's like mental slavery. It's like mental colonization. It's like, because you may be free from dominance from someone, but if someone can control your mind, that's more than controlling your person. I always reference to Nelson Mandela. He was in prison for 27 years, but they could not access his mind, and his way of thinking got him out. The same people that imprisoned him, or the same system that imprisoned him, is the same system that got him out. And when he came out of prison, remember, after 27 years, that's a whole life. That's a whole life right there. He became the prime minister of South Africa. Think of it. That's a person whose mind was self possessed. He possessed his own mind and he did not give access to anyone. He did not give access to anyone to seize, possess, or control his mind. If he spent years crying and pity partying and feeling a victim, he would not have that uh power, the knowledge, and the ambition to come out to run for the presidency, leadership of a nation that imprisoned him. That's crazy in our minimal mindset. But when you think in terms of a growth mindset, when you think in terms of the power of the mind to create, then it's no surprise. It's no surprise. The system is not in your favor, my friend. The system is not in your favor. And the first thing where it starts is self-awareness. It begins with self-awareness. You need to know what your story is. What is your story? Because that is something that's so personal. What is your story? Start by crafting your story. Your story. No one can challenge that. You know how you grew up. You know the influences that were around you. And in most cases, if it's from your great grandmom and your grandma and your mom, those belief systems are so ancient. They haven't updated their thought process. Like your phone, there's always an update. Why? Because there are new discoveries, there are new things that people are discovering every day, either new technology or a new way of doing things, or better information, better access, additional information, modify this, change this, adapt this. There are new things every single day. That's why it's so important to remain relevant. You got to remain relevant. You have to stay relevant. Otherwise, you'll be left behind. And again, for those of you that say, you're waiting for a savior to come back and save you, I'm telling you, it is, you can't, when you say that, it tells me right there, you don't know who you are. Because somebody that knows who they are, or somebody with that mindset, they are living in desperation, or they're living uh, being dependent, trusting someone else. They are not coming into that place of their own authenticity. Why? Because everything is from the outside. You were told that, and it became programmed in your mind. You believe that. That is a belief system, and you believe that. You have no evidence, but it's a belief system, and you believe that. How do you get rid of that? I did, because at some point years ago, when I was religious, I also had those belief system. And after I left religion 16 years ago, and I did a deep dive because I needed to know. I needed to know. And I did a deep dive, and I still am. I am free from any kind of uh, religious indoctrination, belief, and all that. But I'm still open to learn things. I'm learning about different uh, approach to life, morality, and a better way of living every single day. My transformation is an evolution. It keeps evolving. And that's the whole idea. It's not just changing. Change, I want to change to do that. No, you want to be transformed. And in order to transform, you have to renew your mind. You have to get away from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. Tradition. Tradition keeps us bound. Tradition, and of course, not all traditional values. Some things are good, but I don't even box them that way. I just know that I always look at the possibilities of the new and apply that, implement that, at least in my life, things that I can change. And I like to be unique and separate, and do my own thing, and have my own thoughts, and that works for me. That works for me. Of course, I am confident enough and assertive enough that, look, if I take a position on something and it turns out not to work, then I just change it. I modify it, I change it, I move on. I don't beat myself up. I don't, call myself broken, or, going through a test or a trial. No, I just move on. I correct it and I move on. The system is not in your favor. It's not set up for you to be empowered. And you have the ability to empower yourself. You have the ability to empower yourself through self awareness. It starts with knowing who you are, my friend. Who you are. It starts by knowing who you are. Because if you don't know who you are, and when I talk about going back to that place of self-discovery, is, yeah, it's going back to become familiar with the person that you knew before you started that little dance. And people that are enmeshed in religion and tradition and so forth, they think it's cute, but it can become so harmful. It can become so harmful to indoctrinate your child with these beliefs that are simply belief. They set up their own belief system and they grow with that, and that's all they know. And if they don't come to a place where they go through a journey of self discovery, if they don't come to a place where they go through a do not disturb. I don't know why that wasn't on. If they don't come to a place of having their own journey of self discovery, guess what? They will grow in an identity that's foreign to them, an identity that was imposed upon them. And with that comes depression, anxiety, fear, worry, and a whole bunch of stuff. A whole bunch of emotions that are not necessary. But you see, when you know who you are, you come to this place of self awareness. And with that, you begin to reason, think critically, understand your emotions, and regulate your emotions based on life experiences, situations around you. There is no more time to waste, my friend. There is no more time to waste. There is no more time to waste. Once you understand that the system is not working for you, then you should start taking steps to redo the programming, get rid of the conditioning, get rid of the conditioning, get rid of it, the programming. Start honoring yourself. Start seeing yourself with different lens. Start knowing your worth, your value. Start hoping and desiring for other things. I was going to say bigger things, but it doesn't matter, big, small, whatever, just other things. Some of you think that you can't accomplish certain things. Why not? Who has led you to believe? Who has made you believe that you are limited? It's your own mindset, your own thought process, your own thought process. Many of us have, or many people have self-fulfilling prophecies by the things, the way they speak to themselves, the way you speak to yourself. Remember, every cell in your body is recording the information of your thoughts and the words that you speak. Every cell in your body. That's why you can't have idle words at all. No idle words. Honor yourself. Think highly of yourself. Don't be worried about whether people think it's pride or arrogance. That's not even that. And when we talk about changes, I was anyway involved in a conversation. Changes has to do with the ego. And the ego doesn't get you anywhere. The ego, as a matter of fact, the ego is not to be nurtured, because the ego can be misguided. So that's not what you want to pay attention to. But when you talk about transformation, that's from the inside. That touches the qualities of you, your virtue, your character. Those are the things. When I see someone, or when I consider someone, I'm always thinking about the things that I see in them, and I communicate that. Other than, oh, you're so beautiful. As a matter of fact, somebody wrote something on my platform the other day, and it was meant to be a compliment, and I didn't like it at all. This person friended me, asked me to friend, and I accepted. I vetted the person, and I accepted him, and let me see if I find it. And he went on to say a whole bunch of stuff about here. I'm gonna find it. Oh, I guess I guess I went on to say something about thanks to my parents for creating me, and I'm like an angel, and blah, a whole bunch of stuff. So I just, I saw it. It was just such a turn off, and I deleted it. Well, I hid the comment, and I just blocked him, because flattery for me doesn't work. I'm not interested in flattery. That's just external. We're changing every day. So flattery is not flattery is when you want to get something out of someone. When you compliment someone, you are putting something into them. Flattery touches the ego. I'm not interested in that. My transformation is from within. Transformation from within, from the inside. You want to tap into that inner part of you that causes you to change, that provokes you to change, that makes you want to uh, to pivot from where you are to where you want to be, knowing that you can. And all that comes with self-awareness. My friend, now is the time. Don't waste time anymore trying to figure things out, or even though we talk about a journey of um, deconstruction, even though we talk about it, deconstructing everything that no longer serves you, it's a journey. So don't get stuck trying to, modify things. Just make it happen. And while you're moving, make it happen while you're moving. Start doing the things now. Whatever it is that you want to do, get hold of it and start now. You want to change your relationship with your family, your friends, whatever. You want to change jobs, you want to change where you live, whatever. Know that you can. Get out of the system, get out of the conditioning, get out of that programming that keeps you submissive, obedient, and under control. Think about it. Under control keeps you having to submit. Why? Because you're waiting to be saved, to be delivered, to be helped. It makes you seem helpless. Always keep you in a frame of hope. I hope this person does this for me. I hope this happens this way for me. I hope, I believe, I want this to happen. No, call it whatever. I'm a realist. And if I want something to happen, then I just take the steps. You know how I love this cucumber water. Take the steps to make it happen. Wait no longer. Believe in yourself. Begin to celebrate yourself and honor yourself and cheers to yourself. Be happy with yourself. Be proud of yourself. And don't say things like, you're broken. What does that mean? You're not broken. You may have a situation that you're going through, a setback. But you can take care of that. Just do whatever you need to do. And in most cases, you're probably doing whatever you need to do. And, there are always people that are around to help you, to nurture you, to assist you, to give you a hand, to pull you up, and so forth. Well, embrace those people and the opportunities that are extended to you. I went through that kind of situation. We all do. Most of us. I did years ago, and I embraced it. But when I was going through it, and really, even though at the time that I was going through my situation, just life experiences, I didn't think that I was going through a trial or a test or whatever. It's just stuff that happens. You lose your job, you don't have a safety net, and mortgage comes due, rent comes due, car note, whatever, and you're in a mess unless you find a job right away. There's no shame in that. That's just life. Why are you attaching uh, a label to it? Why do you think because it happens to you that you're broken? Why? You're not broken. Get away from the traditional mindset, the traditional programming, the traditional conditioning. Get away from that, my friend. That is usually attached to a fixed mindset. And a fixed mindset is one of trauma. And where the decision has been made that you are not going to change from the way you think, the way you believe. This is what I know, and this is what I've been taught. This is the way I grew up. This is what I know, and this is my story, and I'm sticking with it. I heard somebody said that today on a podcast. That is my story, and I'm sticking to it. someone like that, that is like this show is not for someone like that. Because again, they have their story and they said they're sticking with it. And that is perfectly okay. That is perfectly okay. But for those of us that have a growth mindset, we set ourselves up for abundance, prosperity, success, peace, joy, contentment, and all of those things to live life on our own terms. To live life on our own terms, unapologetically. You look around and you see people, and somebody said to me the other day, he says, "Wow, says you kind of live a life that appears that everything is okay." And started thinking about it, and I thought, well, yeah, everything is okay. I mean, I don't know what else I needed. I mean, I don't know what they meant, but they said, well, they implied that I come off as if my life is perfect. Well, it's perfect for me. Even if I have a setback, I'm gonna use the tools that I have to deal with the situation, even if I have a setback. And when I say a setback, I mean stuff happens. And it happens to all of us. No one escapes situations. Happens to all of us. But it's how you uh, see it, your perspective of the situation. Is it a crisis or is it something that needs your attention? So that's not my impression to come off as if things are uh, perfect. Things are perfect. Things are perfect. Do I have situations? Yeah. They're perfect in their own way. People are going to have opinions, and they're going to just try to put you in that box. And because I don't complain, I guess that's the situation. I don't complain, and I don't moan and complain, and I I don't I don't do that because it doesn't help me. It doesn't help me, and I don't want to go stress someone else out, for something that that's my situation. I don't want to go stress someone else out. So I don't complain. So whatever assessment you have of me in my life, I just want to share with you so that you can get out of that quagmire and start living now the life that you want to live life on your own terms. To be sovereign and autonomous, and the best you can make decisions for yourself, and this way you don't feel that you are under the system, the matrix, living to please and to perform and to do things and be under the thumb and the control of people that are outside, your pastor, the system. It's easy to have you under control. It's easy to manipulate. But when people start asking questions, then you become a challenge. I'm going to leave you with that, my friend, so that you can sup on that. You can ponder on it. You can muse on those things and uh, take yourself to the next step. Unapologetically. Don't explain. Don't, none of that. Now, every Thursday, 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, we have a date right here. Um, And if you can't join me at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, you see the icons over here: Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. You can pick up the show 24/7 on those stream. If you need to touch base with me, go to info@thecynthialinoxshow.com. and drop me a note, and I'll get back with you. I'm also a transformational life coach. Um, Drop me a note. We can chat and see where we go from there. Besides, have a fantastic weekend, my friend. Whatever you do, have a great weekend. You still have uh tomorrow, Friday, to work, but then comes the weekend, make it splendid in whatever you choose to do. And I will see you then. Until then, hasta la vista, hasta luego, ciao, au revoir, a tout à l'heure, adios, amigo, hasta la vista. I don't like to say adios. You never want to say goodbye. You just say see you later.